time of writing this video, I'm just a few hours out from seeing the Logan Paul versus Dillon Danis fight, and I want just to get right into it. Not that long ago, I sent out a poll to my community about this whole situation with Dillon, Logan, and Logan's fiance, Nina, asking for thoughts on whether or not I should cover this topic myself from a different perspective. The significance of this to me, and I'm sure my returning viewers understand, is that I'm no stranger to Logan. My favorite video on my channel is the one featuring one of our Zoom calls, and he's my idol for a reason, with one of the main ones being that I see a lot of my journey in his, including the different ways that we relate on a personal level, which means that there's a lot of dots that I can connect here that a lot of people don't see. So to see this clearly, you need someone who understands him and not just sees him as the embodiment of the worst thing ever done. But also, with Nina involved, you kind of need a bit of a manosphere perspective. And if you saw my appearance on the TSP podcast, then you know I'm no stranger to that as well. When I sent out the poll, that was back in August, and at the time, I was really focused on covering the topic of Chucky, and I didn't want to suddenly break that streak and cover something completely random. And because of that, I wasn't really sure if I was going to make it in time to get around to doing this video before it's no longer relevant. But eventually, I told myself, you know what? Let's wait for Logan to win, and then I'll make this video as part of the celebration for his victory. And here we are. I didn't have any doubts about Logan coming out as the winner for a number of reasons that we'll get to, so it's not that I wanted to make a point that wouldn't hold if he lost, but rather for all the Mavericks, some of which are subscribed to my channel, and all the others who have had to deal with a constant train of people using this fight as Logan Paul takes another L content. Let's start with the lead up. The main reason why I wanted to make this video in the first place was to talk about Dillon using Nina as the punching bag, bringing up her personal history, making a spectacle of her to be the focal point of this fight. Does no one remember when KSI was doing some form of this during the beef with Logan, back when he was dating Chloe Bennett? I'm sure some of you remember KSI wearing Chloe Bennett mask and making sexual remarks toward Logan's partner at the time, and it was in bad taste then. Chloe had no significant part in that rivalry, so what did she do to deserve a target on her back? In what world does it make sense for this to be okay? That's like Logan coming after Dillon's partner that he keeps private from what I've heard, or the girl that KSI said he was going to marry on the Impulsive podcast, or better yet, Deji, or someone else from the opponent's family. The point is, they have nothing to do with the beef, so why pull them into it? An example of it making sense would be if KSI texts Jake during beef with Logan because he originally called both of them out and they didn't like KSI at that point. Now they buried the hatchet and they're business partners, so it wouldn't be warranted anymore. But the idea is that you should focus the fight on the person you're going to be fighting against, not someone who simply has to watch it because it involves the person they care about. And I think condoning that and even praising it is something along the lines of a moral. But that's just an old example I used from back when Logan vs. KSI was a thing, and that was mild compared to him versus Dillon Danis, who has gone out of his way to post hundreds of insensitive and exploitive photos of the man's fiance on Twitter for attention. Like I said, something of value about either of the men's competence in the ring. And the entire media was eating it up, because the media loves to glamorize Logan in a negative light, and they're always quick to jump on it without looking further. I remember when Logan got canceled on Twitter for being pro-life, when it turned out it was taken out of context, not to mention he established prior that he was pro-choice when he scribbled onto the faces of those who voted to ban abortion, which means he got canceled for no reason and everyone got riled up over nothing. Now you're telling me the same people can't even think, oh, he shouldn't go after someone's fiance, that's not cool, before laughing and saying Logan is marrying someone who has been with a bunch of dudes. It's all pathetic. This is why Tekashi 69 is so successful, because more people nowadays love to hate rather than appreciate. That's all this was to me. All about the hate, putting Logan down, even if it meant tearing an innocent person apart in the process. Someone who should be almost irrelevant. The fact that they've gone down that route, while even finding ways to make Logan a bad guy for her own personal past because he didn't rush to her defense, says a lot. And how many people even knew Dillon before this? Logan is at a much higher level in terms of fame and is very multifaceted. And the one thing Dillon is mostly known for isn't something that Logan is also known for. So really, who knew Dillon before this that doesn't watch MMA? Very few people, I'd say. So it's not like this is coming from a sense of love and appreciation for Dillon, like he's the protagonist who's supposed to be the better person. No, all of this is because people are counting on Logan and his brother to fail, counting on it, and never letting the dust settle from why they started in the first place. Even if someone in that moment is being objectively worse, like Dillon, that's when it's no longer trying to correct wrong, but rather trying to hold a grudge against something until the end of time, instead of letting them live their life and enjoy their wins along the way, because people deem it so. Sounds almost inhumane. Now that that's out of the way, and we've established that regardless of if this looks bad for Logan or not, it's still bad for Dillon to put Nina in that position, I'm going to share my thoughts on the topic itself, surrounding Logan and Nina, and I'll try to keep it brief because it's not really supposed to be the focal point of the conversation. I'll start with the way Candace Owens put it. It's definitely a lesson for women. Digital footprints are very, very important. You can't retire something that is always going to be present in your life in one way or another. You can choose to not be present on the field if you're a football player, but no matter who you are, you can't choose to no longer have embarrassing, implicating videos of you on the internet. For the average person, singing a song terribly when you were super young is one thing, but opening up about a time you engaged in sexual matters in a wildly public space is an entirely different thing, especially if you're a person that has more eyes on you than the average person does. I think everyone should stay mindful of how they promote themselves on the internet, because that's what it is. It's a promotion. Your footprint is your presence. I can't put it any more simpler than that. I remember years ago, I was watching a talk show. It was this panel of women, and they talked about the controversy that sparked when a female celebrity posted a photo of her kissing her daughter on the lips in the pool. And one of the main points that was brought up was that the photo is a still frame. It's frozen in place. So the interpretation to some people could have been that it was more than just a peg, which is why it looks off-putting in the first place. And the reason why I bring it up is because the same thing applies here. People can and will use all of your promotions to decide for themselves what kind of product you are. You really are. And that might not be a true reflection of who you are now and who you're going to be tomorrow. And when it's like that, there's nothing that can be done. No excuses either. Even if you're just an innocent person who loves their child, even if you were young and dumb when that promotion came out, even if no one knows you outside of the people who were there when the picture was taken, you can try to change, be a better person, and do damage control, but a reputation is a reputation, and there's no form of erasure for that. Now, I want to say that by the looks of it, what's been posted about Nina isn't anything recent. In fact, the example I just used clearly shows her when she was very young. It's like with Logan. Moving on and adapting to who that person is in the present sounds a lot healthier than dwelling on them for the spectacle that they once were. Now, sometimes the past does matter. I would say that it matters especially if it's someone you're dating or looking into something for more. But are we really going to do the whole once and always thing where once you've gone down a regrettable path, that's always going to be the thing you'll be until the day you die? So is Nina a 304 who has hit the wall from this point on because she embraced that side of her years ago? And to the people saying that Logan has fallen into her trap, as if they know her well enough to say she's trapping him, and that she set him up to fail even more by locking him down, who's to say that she is still that person? I'm not saying she isn't, and I'm not saying she is either, because like you all, I don't know her. Logan knows her. That's the person Logan chose to marry. Nina is a girl that is getting married by someone the manosphere considers to be a high value man. And how do you get to be a high value man? How do you work toward the status that it takes? Do you just work your way up as time goes on, or does it take more strategic effort and intelligence than that? Logan is not an idiot, people. His IQ has been talked about on numerous occasions. He got tested before he went into WWE. There was a vlog he did where he discovered that he had holes in his brain, which is ironically also when he discovered the parts of his brain that make him a genius. And the entire Maverick team all took an IQ test, and if I remember correctly, he had one of the highest. So do you mean to tell me he's gotten himself where he is now and has above average intelligence, but he doesn't know how to see red flags that will disqualify someone from being worthy of being his wife? Isn't that the part of being a celebrity? Being safe when it comes to the opposite sex and how you can wind up paying if you don't pick your partners right? This is why I say it's important to know these people, so you can put two and two together instead of riding this hate train that condenses everything. When I watched all the videos from different creators covering this, that was the main thing I noticed. None of them were talking about who Nina is as a person, only her history. No one talked about anything that has to do with her in recent time. Logan and Nina got engaged this year, not several many years ago. The only person I saw that used something recent to build off of was Manosphere Highlights Daily. Shout out to him. What he did was he took a portion of her Impulsive episode and analyzed her body language and facial reactions to pinpoint her doubts about herself or where she disagrees with things Logan said about her without saying anything out loud and what that means for the bigger picture. However, people react to different things for different reasons, and these reactions are a source to different things. Why do you think lie detectors, for the most part, aren't admissible in court? Because a polygraph isn't detecting a lie, it's detecting a reaction that may be a sign of lying, which could also be a reaction to something else, like being nervous, under pressure even when you're telling the truth. It could even stem from anxiety and autism. I'm not saying any of those apply to Nina, I'm saying it could literally be anything. Her reactions aren't equivalent to her stamping what you're thinking on her forehead. People did similar during the lead up to Jake Paul's previous boxing matches, saying that his body language and such was showing signs of incompetence that proved he'll lose, but then he won. So while I appreciate you being the one person I saw that used something more recent, Master Highlights Daily, I personally couldn't take anything of value from it, but I'll still continue to watch your videos. Also, I understand that men for the most part do value purity, but we also have to understand that purity is hard to find in our day and age. Logan's engagement was really inspiring for me because I myself would like to get married. If I had the option, would I choose to marry a virgin over someone who's been with five guys? Of course. But how many women are virgins on their wedding day in this day and age? I'm not going to bore you all with numbers, but a very, very small amount compared to what it was 60 years ago. If I disqualify every woman who's been with a guy already, I disqualify all except like 5% of them. It's the same thing with women who have unrealistic high expectations. They add so many mandatory boxes that need to be checked that by the time they're ready to stop adding checkboxes and start looking, there's only like 100 men left on the planet who qualify, and then all of them could easily get eliminated for some other silly reason. So it's not really a matter of finding someone who's 100% pure, it's finding someone who is more pure than others, but has also overcome the things that have made them less pure. If you see a woman on a podcast, like whatever, or Fresh and Fit, who is a sex worker trying to validate their lifestyle as something that should be empowered and more mainstream, then obviously they haven't overcome that. But how many of those women are getting married to the guy of their dreams, like Nina? The late Kevin Samuels would say that if a woman is married, then it's not for him to rate that woman. According to him, it's not his or anyone else's business to decide where she ranks because they've been chosen. Women and men are unsatisfied in the sexual marketplace, and it's men who walk up to each door, but women who answer, and each will only do so if that's the decision that they're happy with. Logan knocked, Nina answered, and it eventually led to Logan getting down on one knee and Nina saying yes. The rest is between them. So I say, this doesn't look bad for Logan. The things that the internet have had to say, from what I've seen, says nothing of substance about 2023 Nina, and Logan isn't doing himself a disservice by not picking someone younger than him who has less experience. But taking Nina's past into consideration, should Logan analyze this or thoroughly reconsider where he stands in his relationship with her? Yes, if he didn't already know about this before Dillon brought attention to it, he should. Now, what should that decision be, all things considered? I don't know, because I don't know everything he knows about Nina. And again, it's not my business. If he proceeds to marry her, I respect his decision. If they don't get married and instead part ways amicably, I respect his decision. But shame on Dillon either way for coming between them like that, or trying to, by placing Nina in between he and Logan when they're the ones they're supposed to be fighting. I feel like one of the only people to acknowledge that. Brett Cooper did, to her credit, but it seemed very condensed, the way she addressed it in comparison to what she had to say about Nina and even Logan for not yet defending her made it seem like no big deal. Like there's a reason why a judge granted Nina a restraining order against Dillon, because it is a big deal, and the context should be the least of everyone's concerns when you have a stranger being predatory and cyberbullying towards an innocent person. But same thing here. I love Brett and will continue to watch her videos. We can't all agree on everything. And whether you do or whether you don't, I want to hear everyone's thoughts in the comment section. Moving on. For someone who talked so much trash, made things so personal, and used so many petty talking points that everyone else defaults to when attacking Logan, Dillon did not back up anything at all. I'm not going to pretend to be a boxing expert. I'm not a boxing fan. I'm pretty sure this fight and the Mayweather fight are the only boxing matches I've paid for. I'm here because I support Logan. I admit it. So what I'm about to say about this fight is not going to be an opinion that's supposed to be better or more accurate than yours or anyone else's. So again, if you disagree, there's a comment section where you can feel free to correct me if you believe that I'm wrong. First, let's get Dillon's other L's out the way. Him going the route that he did led to lawsuits, restraining orders, legal fees, and to add insult to injury, he bet Logan his entire purse. So if he's a man of his word, whatever money he's made from this fight can't even be used to pay any debts. Instead, it goes to Logan. And if he isn't a man of his word, then that's just another L for him and his reputation. Now, for the fight itself, I feel like it was satisfying, entertaining, but also disappointing. It was satisfying to see Logan in a boxing ring again since the Mayweather fight. I feel like people were overlooking him and doubting him solely because he wasn't getting in the ring as much as Jake or KSI. And I always knew he was a talented boxer. But it doesn't have to be measured by how many times you fight professionally. Not only was it satisfying to see him in the ring again, but it was entertaining to see him carry the fight. I could never put Dillon's words to my brain and just imagine him doing well in this fight. I just couldn't. Everything about him this entire time was disingenuous to me. I wasn't starting to be convinced until I saw how well he did on the lie detector test that they had him take. But like I mentioned earlier, your reactions to a polygraph can mean many things other than simply you are either lying or telling the truth. Because clearly, if he believed in himself and had nothing to prove, his demeanor would have been different, and his ignorance wouldn't have shown. Like bringing up stuff like CryptoZoo, who even George Janko continues to contend that whatever happened there wasn't Logan's fault. Dillon was purely perpetuating and getting all the love for hitting Logan, including for the things that he doesn't deserve to hate for. The entertaining thing that I just mentioned was also one of the disappointing things. You would think that after all of that, he would have at least given Logan a decent fight, but he didn't give Logan a fight at all. I literally guessed that he threw less than 10 punches, and then it turns out I was right. He threw 9 punches the entire time. Another disappointing thing was that Logan technically didn't win because of how hard he fought. He won because Dillon got himself disqualified during the fight's last few moments. Last disappointing thing was also that Logan didn't get the knockout. I remember when he posted on his story that his next boxing opponent would be getting knocked out clean, and I had been waiting for that ever since. There were times where I felt like Logan could have just gotten the job done, but after hearing different opinions about how maybe it was actually smart to hold back, I feel better about it. You would just think that it's so much easier when someone gives you basically no offense, but this is not to be like all the toxic so-called boxing fans and say that it's embarrassing that Logan could knock out Dillon. No, you can't guarantee yourself a knockout. Logan might have promised to himself, to Nina, and to his audience, but it's not a promise that he can keep. Floyd Mayweather guaranteed that Logan was getting knocked out, and he later said that he couldn't do it, or someone on his team, and I think that's embarrassing for him. personally because he's literally Floyd Mayweather, someone said to be the best in the world, undefeated with 50 wins, and only Logan's second opponent. It even says something about Logan's skill and capabilities that a lot of people aren't willing to admit since he's still considered a YouTuber. But with that being said, even if Logan had experience, you don't know what you're getting into. You don't know what you're going to have to do at every moment until you get there. And I'm sure a lot of the time that's going to mean getting hindered from making things go according to plan. So no, Logan hasn't taken a loss for not knocking out Dillon. Logan won the fight, he did all the work, and his opponent made a huge fool of himself. At least Dillon contributed to the fight in that way, because what happened there during the last round at the very end is the only part of the fight that a lot of people are going to find worth talking about. And I'm still processing it because it all happened so fast. Another thing I wanted to address was people saying that Dillon more or less still won because of all the fame he got for something that he didn't take seriously or was simply part of a much more elaborate plan. There's so many people giving him just way too much credit. I have to put it honestly. If his polity exam was accurate, he genuinely believed that he was going to do exactly what he said he was going to do. He did a lot of backtracking when things didn't always stay in his favor, like complaining about the Nina situation blowing up in his face. If he genuinely didn't care or take this seriously, why would he complain about Logan not following all of the precise rules for weight when they weighed pretty much the same? He got everything he signed up for and complained when it didn't involve him being glorified. I'm not even convinced this was a careless L that he took so that he could beat Logan more embarrassingly in MMA. And what fame is he going to keep other than having his name mentioned for the next 3 months at most? And what type of fan base is he going to hold on to aside from a small batch of people who simply don't like Logan? What kind of fan base is that? He's not going to stay at that level that he's at now because of fight hype, especially not after the way he lost. This up in fame is going to wither unless he continues to beef with a rematch or even outside of the ring. But that's not going to look that's just going to look more pathetic when Logan wants to move on. Now that we're all here at this point in time, let's not be delusional. Dillon did not win in any regard, and Logan has overcome everything that losingness would have meant by winning, by showing who the boxer was, by showing that he's the one who can back himself up, and by showing that everything Dillon said and did amounted to nothing. His post-fight speech says it all. He gets to go home with everything left, including his relationship with his fiancée that he reports has grown stronger in the time since, and Dillon gets to go home with literally nothing left. And I think that's the end of it. One of the last things that I want to mention are the imagine paying for this crowd. The people calling it a scam because of how things went. I think it's common sense that you aren't guaranteed a fight to your liking or a knockout in one of those fights. Yeah, the competitors are going to talk trash and say that they'll knock their opponent out, but if you believe them and then it doesn't happen for whatever reason, that doesn't mean you got scammed. You paid for the event. That's the guarantee. The fight. Not a good fight, not a bad fight, just a fight where a knockout may happen or may not happen. Unless the promoters of the event, such as the Zone, say buy this fight to see someone get knocked out, and they guarantee that it has to happen in one of those fights, you were not scammed. And if you stream the fight online somewhere for free, congratulations. I bought the fight because I wanted to support Logan and I wanted to watch it. I've been waiting years to see him get in the ring again. And I wasn't about to go a less reliable alternative route when doing so. I got what I paid for, so I don't feel scammed. I'm not entitled to where I'm going to say, if this isn't a quality boxing match that ends in a knockout, I want my money back. We all knew who was fighting since the event was announced, and during the lead up, they gave us background on who those individuals are, which we can then use to decide if he'll be a good fight or not, if it'll be worth watching. That's all there is to it. Overall, I'd say that was a great performance from Logan and a good start to his boxing return. It could lead to his MMA debut, which I'll happily watch. But like Logan said, it only happened if Dillon keeps his word. But I'm not really expecting that to happen. All I know now is that a lot of people were, as I put it before, counting on Logan to fail. I suspect that a lot of people cheering for Dillon, in my opinion, aren't part of some passionate Dillon Danis fan base. They're anti-Logan Paulers, and they let it blind them. They let it validate the same kind of ignorance that Dillon had going into this. Instead of doing a proper weigh-in, they leaned into favoritism and relied on it. In the process, it showed us a lot about the inhumanity aspect as well. How people respond when the one that they decide to hate is wearing blue, and the one that they see in blue happens to be wearing red in plain sight. Thank you all for watching and for making it to the end. Don't forget to comment with your thoughts down below if you have any you'd like to share. Maybe leave a like and subscribe to stick around because I may be doing a continuation of this video surrounding Tommy Fury versus KSI.